welcome to our first video for our channel in Liga Pro Roundup. Liga Pro Roundup is a newly launched Twitter page that seeks to provide news, information, and generate a discussion around the Ecuadorian Liga Pro. As part of our first launch, we provided an article which tries to have a preview about the 2021 season of the Liga Pro. You can find that on our Twitter page at Roundup Pro. Along with this, we wanted to provide a little bit of a video which will be providing our predictions about how the 2021 season will pan out. Well, I didn't want to create a prediction that tried to place teams from 1st to 16th because I think that that would be extremely difficult and, to a sense, unfair to me because I have not been able to see any matches yet. So what I have done is I've created my own tier list maker. I will be sharing this link on my Twitter page and also in the description to this video. So what I have done is I've created this tier list maker, and I will try to locate the teams according to the position that I think that they're going to be in. So I've divided them into 5 different categories: relegation candidates, mid-table obscurity teams, teams that will not be fighting against relegation, but they will also not be fighting for any of the continental competition berths. Then we have the Sudamericana berth teams, the Libertadores berth, and the genuine title contenders, who I expect to be in the fight to win the title at the end of the season. So let's get started with our relegation candidates. First of all, we have newly promoted and holders of one of the world's best badges, Manta Football Club. Manta Football Club are one of the recently promoted teams, one of the two, and I believe that they will struggle tremendously in the league for the sole reason that their defense is not good enough. They have made fantastic acquisitions in their strike force, none more so than Jose Angulo, El Tin, who has been signed from Barcelona, and who we are fully aware that on his best day is a very lethal striker. In addition to this, they also have some options going forward that are creative, that are clinical in front of goal. However, they have signed these players and completely neglected the defensive side of their team. Their defense has no players of note, and they will struggle tremendously to be able to stay in the league. One of the acquisitions that might help them in order to avoid relegation is their goalkeeper, Hamilton Piedra, who has signed from Independiente del Valle. He is a goalkeeper that a couple of years ago was tipped to be one of Ecuador's greatest shot stoppers and a player that can also play well with his feet. However, he has not had regular football playing time with Independiente del Valle, and I think he will struggle tremendously in the first games. However, if he can click and he can become a wall in goal, he might single-handedly be able to save Manta. However, I don't think that this is going to happen, and I don't think that their defense is going to provide any type of security or regularity, so I tip them as my favorites for relegation. Then another team that will also be fighting towards not being relegated is Centro Deportivo Olmedo. Centro Deportivo Olmedo stayed up last year merely on goal difference. They were marginally better than two of the worst sides that we have seen in Ecuadorian football, El Nacional and Liga de Porto Viejo. And on top of this, they have lost their captain and best player, William Ceballos. William Ceballos was sold to Universidad Católica, and that's going to leave a huge gap in their midfield. If you go back and see some of the games that he had last season, he was absolutely magnificent. He played passes to his teammates that were absolutely pinpoint. He read the game fantastically well. He seemed to play at a speed that was a little bit higher than his teammates, and he's gone, and so are his goals from free kicks and long distance shots. So I think that he's going to struggle. They're going to struggle, without him absolutely. And they have nobody else that can fill that role, and they don't have any players that were at his level last year, apart from Gabriel Ceballos, the goalkeeper, who had a decent end towards the final matches of the year, but he was absolutely inconsistent at the beginning. So I can't see them doing any better than fighting for relegation, and I think that they're in serious trouble this time, and they might be relegated. The third team that I also see as relegation candidates are Mushu Coruna. Mushu Coruna are an interesting team because they have a president who keeps them financially grounded He does not make any type of signings that are detrimental to the finances or to the team, but he is completely crazy. He seems to pick fights with other presidents from other clubs. He picks fights with his managers. He picks fight with his players. He claims that he's not going to pay them unless they win. He then goes on to say that if they do not pick up 3 points in the next match, he's going to make them work in his field feeding the pigs or picking the plants. So he's not really a player that can, a president that can provide them with the stability necessary for a top flight team. In addition to this, they obviously lost one of their best players in Horacio Orsan. He was a midfield general who could also play football quite well, and he has been transferred out. And I think that right now they're going to struggle to find a player that can fill his role, and that's going to make him struggle. So I expect him to have a turbulent year, a year that might end up with relegation unless Giovanni Kumbikus can run a tight ship and actually manage to get the team working well and picking up points where one would think they would not pick them up. I don't think they can do anything better than a relegation fight, and these three teams, I believe, are going to be the ones that will have the biggest difficulties in staying in the division. Next, we go to the teams that will be in mid table obscurity, teams that will not really have any issues with relegation, but will not be able to have any aspirations above that. My first team for this is Delfin. Delfin were a good team. They were the reigning champions last year from the 2019 season, but for some reason they did not click. They had a turbulent year. They had 3 or 4 managers that came in. None of them was able to provide stability or pick up any points, and that meant that they had the first bad year in a long time. Now they have hired Paul Vélez, who is a good manager, who will be able to get the team back on track. But in order for the players to buy into his philosophy, he requires, I believe, at least a year. He needs players to fit in his style, and his style is very organized defensive play with quick counterattacks that are lethal whenever they recover the ball with their defensive shape and their defensive patience. I do not think that Delfin has the players necessary to fit into this style immediately. So this year for Delfin will be a year where they need to rebuild. They need to understand and buy into Paul Velez's system. And once they do, I do believe that they will start challenging for a Sudamericana or a Libertadores berth. I expect that to be in a year's time, but maybe it might be a little bit longer. For the time being, they will be in the mid table obscurity group without any trouble with relegation. The next team that will be fighting here is Técnico Universitario. Técnico Universitario last year were solid. They had a manager who came in, did things his way, and the players bought into that way immediately. Cheche Hernandez had a team that was very disciplined. He had a team that was very good playing on the wings and on the counterattack. And he was able to do this with a player who was perhaps one of the better signings last year, Steven Tapiero. Nevertheless, Tapiero is gone for this year, and there appears to be nobody to fit into his shoes or to fill his void. So I think that they will struggle to be able to reach a Sudamericana berth, but I think that they can build on last year and allow them to have a general stability, a year where they will be able to buy even more into Cheche Hernandez's plans and style of play. And I think that they will have no issue with relegation. Then another team that will be in this same place is Deportivo Cuenca. Deportivo Cuenca were definitely favorites for relegation for many of the fans last year. Everybody expected them to go down. They could not get a win to save their lives. Before the pandemic started, they were picking up very, very few points, perhaps less than zero point 0.5 points per game. They had the relegation form that was very clear for everybody to see. And then, right after the play resumed, once the authorities allowed football to restart, once the pandemic was ongoing, they were also not very good. They were struggling. And then, at a given point in time, I believe it was in their match against Universidad Católica in Olímpico Atahualpa. They managed to scrape a 1-0 win with 10 men, and starting from there, their season changed. They were absolutely lifted up by their captain, by their best player and captain, Diego Dorregaray, who was their captain towards the end of the season, I do believe. But he really picked them up, and he was absolutely magnificent. He was scoring goals, he was motivating them, he was generating play, and at the end of the year, they were safe against all odds. And I expect them to build on that this year. I don't expect them to have any type of relegation worries, but they will need to get the best out of Diego Dorregaray, who they have managed to keep, and also the best out of their signings. Their main signing this year was Andres Chicaiza, who was one of the better players 3 years ago, but has struggled tremendously during the last 2 seasons. So if they have the possibility to recover his form or something close to the form that he had when he played with Delfin, they will be a team that will be pretty stable and will have no issues with relegation. If the team does not gel, and if the players do not have good form, particularly their new signings and Dorregaray, then they will struggle tremendously. Another team that will be part of this mid-stable obscurity is Orense. Orense last season were a team that were in huge trouble at the beginning of the season. They had a manager who had them playing or trying to play attractive possession style football, and this was not working for them. They did not have the quality to compete with other teams in the league, and it took Patricio Lara coming in to change this way. He came in. He's a manager that's been in Ecuador for a really long time. He was Jorge Celico's right hand man, so he really understands how Ecuadorian players think, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and he came in and he changed the way that the things that they did. He made them a physical side, a side that would run 90 plus minutes, chasing balls, winning 50-50 tackles, making it extremely difficult for players to play against them. One of their best players last season was Eder Cetre, who was a no nonsense midfielder. He patrolled his defense magnificently. He just grabbed games by the scruff of the neck. He imposed his physical presence. His tackles were crunching tackles every single time, and he just brought the fear into the eyes of even the best strikers and midfielders of the league. They lost him, but they have signed Godoy from Emelec, who I think could do something similar in a team like Orense. So I don't think they should have any issues. Apart from that, Patricio Lara understands our football quite well. He uses his environment extremely well. The team that plays in Machala plays on a pitch that is extremely high grass. It's like a little jungle. It's heavy. It's difficult to run. His players are extremely fit. Um, their tackles are absolutely they're very strong. So he will make it very difficult for teams to come to the high humidity of Machala and attempt to get points there. They lack the quality, but they make up for that with their physical nature of the game and their astute manager. So I do believe that they will have a generally calm year. Perhaps if their team clicks and if they make Machala their fortress, they might sneak into a Sudamericana berth. But for the time being, I have included them as part of this mid-table obscurity group. Next, we will go into the Sudamericana berth teams. First, we have Guayaquil City. Guayaquil City were perhaps one of the surprises of last season. Nobody expected them to do as well as they did, but they did. They have Pulgavilanes, who plays attractive possession-based football. He likes to move the ball around. He likes to attempt to get teams to push on their strong side so that he can then switch the ball over to the weak side of the field, and he has done so quite well. He also had a team of talented players who bought into his system once again, and I think that this year he has the possibility to build on that with the signings that he has made. The only unfortunate thing for them is that they have lost their captain and one of their best players, Michael Hoyos. He has gone to Barcelona, so it will be difficult for some player to come in and play at the high level that he was playing. But I do believe that Pulga Vilanes can get the best out of this team and repeat the Sudamericana berth that they got. The only issue that they might have is if their new signings and their old players do not gel well together and they lose a lot of points at the beginning. But I don't expect them to fall anything lower than a Sudamericana berth. The next team that is going to be fighting for a Sudamericana berth is Macará. Macará is a team that are in the Sudamericana right now. and they have a president who is financially stable. He loves the club. He is somebody that has an emotional connection with the club, and as such, would never do any type of negative finance issues with Macara. In addition to this, they have players of quite a high quality, and they should be able to repeat their Sudamericana berth this year. The only issue that they have is that they lost longtime manager Paul Vélez, and the new manager that has just come in, he will have to work quickly, make the players fall into his system, and if they do so, he should have no issue in getting a Sudamericana berth again. Nevertheless, I do not think that they can push any higher than this. They have quality players, but this will be a year where they will have to be stable, as they are having a new manager, and they will, for the first time in a long time, not be as stable as they were in the dugout. Another team that will fight for the Sudamericana berth is Universidad Católica. Universidad Católica is the team that I support, and they are currently in the first round of Copa Libertadores. The reason why I think that they will not be able to repeat a Libertadores berth is because their team does not have much strength and depth. They have a very sound starting 11, a very good manager, but the substitutions that they have do not possess the quality of the starting 11. So the fact that they're going to be fighting on two fronts, if one of the players gets injured or if there are suspensions, the players who substitute in for them do not have the same quality, and as such, that makes them drop their level quite a bit. In addition to this, Sachi Escobar was diagnosed, the manager was diagnosed with cancer, so he will have to step out for 2 months, and he will be unable to be directly working with the team while he gets his cancer treatment. So I think that this will also be something negative for the team. Nevertheless, they will be fighting for Sudamericana berth, that I'm completely certain of, and they will require the help of their substitutes. They need them at the highest level in order to compete in the Liga Pro and in the Libertadores, and primarily they require their strong youth setup to help them as much as they did last year. So I don't expect Católica to repeat the Libertadores berth, but they should be able to clinch a Sudamericana berth this year. And then finally, the last team that will be part of this Sudamericana chasing pack is perhaps a team that is a surprise. 9 de Octubre. 9 de Octubre are the other recently promoted teams, and they are a controversial team out of the field. Perhaps someday I will make a video about why they are a controversial team, but for the time being, I'll just say that they're very controversial out of the field. So they've made fantastic signings. They have not lost any players, and I expect them to hit the ground running in the Liga Pro. We have the possibility to get a glimpse of them in the televised friendly against Barcelona, and they did not look out of place. They looked like they were a team that could compete in the Liga Pro, and that's why I tipped them to be this year's surprises. And I think that they will be perhaps pushing for a Sudamericana berth, and I would be surprised if they don't clinch it. The only way that they don't do that is if they have some issues on or perhaps off the field, which may arise as the season goes by. Next, we have the teams that will be chasing Libertadores berth. First, we have Emelec. Emelec are a team that did not have the best last 2 or 3 years. They have struggled tremendously. They signed Ismael Rescalvo as their manager from Independiente del Valle, and it looked like it was not going to work for them. It took time for him to click, and it took a lot of patience from both fans and from the chairman of the club. But finally, towards the last part of last season, we were able to see that they were playing good football. They were achieving certain results that they had struggled with before. And they really reminded us that they're a very good club. I expect them to grow on this. I expect their signings to improve them. And I do think that they will definitely be one of the clubs that will clinch a Libertadores berth. I'm not sure that they will be able to be title challengers because they do not possess the quality that the two title challengers which you will see have, but I do think that they will definitely clinch a Libertadores berth, and if they're lucky, And if the Libertadores teams right now have deep runs, then perhaps they might be the dark horses for the title. But for the time being, I'll place them here. The other Libertadores berth is a team that is a little bit surprising, perhaps, Aucas. Aucas made some absolutely brilliant signings. They have a strong attack. They have a very strong midfield. They signed El Polaco Friudiseski, very difficult to pronounce, from Liga de Porto Viejo. He is a fantastic striker, clinical finisher, who is going to improve that team a lot. They also signed Roberto Latuca Ordóñez from Emelec, a very sound attacker who scores a lot of goals. They plucked out Steven Tapiero from Técnico Universitario, one of the best signings last year. They have now a midfield enforcer. They have a sound goalkeeper and a decent defense. So I think that they will be the team that will surprise the people the most this season. I think that they will be fighting at the top end of the table for most of the season. And I tip them to perhaps be one of the teams that very easily clinches a Libertadores berth. And once again, if they're lucky and the Libertadores teams right now have a deep run, they might be able to sneak in or be in contention to win the title. And finally, I have three teams that I consider to be title challengers. First one, Liga de Quito. Liga de Quito have been in the final two times in a row. They've lost both of them, but they're a team that's quite stable. They have good players. They possess quality. They possess strength and depth. They have a good youth. They have good youth players. They have the possibility to make signings. And even though they have not made as many signings this season, what they have managed to do is make the best signing of the tournament in Luis Amarilla. Luis Amarilla was the top scorer Liga Pro 2 years ago, where he was an absolute monster for Universidad Católica. He was good playing as a second striker. He was good playing with his back to goal. He was a fantastic finisher. He could do quick dribbling with the ball very close to his foot in the final third. He had plenty of assists. His movement off the ball was second to none. So in reality, he is the best, most shrewd signing that they could have made to partner their absolute tank up front in Martinez Borja. I believe that as soon as Amarilla is out of his injury, he had an ankle injury which kept him off the field for a really long time. But as soon as he is completely recovered, he's gonna hit the ground running. He's a player that knows how to play in Ecuadorian football. He had no issue with high altitude. He was extremely happy living in the city. So all of those things made him one of the better players of the league, if not the best. And I think that he is going to bring the extra little bit that Liga needs in order to be genuine title challengers and winners. So I see them once again being in the final this year, and I see them being in the final with none other than the reigning champions Barcelona. Barcelona are without a doubt the best team of the league. They made great signings. They have a very stable team, and they have the top one or two top manager in the league. I'll just go out there and say it. He's the best manager in the league. He's tactically astute. He knows how to play. He has some gamesmanship. He's just the whole package, and his team is absolutely brilliant. I can't see them dropping any lower than second. And I see the final once again being Liga Barcelona come December, and I expect them to repeat their title winning run, with the exception of them doing well in Libertadores. If they do well in Libertadores, then they will neglect the Liga Pro, obviously, because they will always prefer Libertadores to the local championship, and then their form might suffer. But if they do not have a deep run, if they're out in the group stages or in the round of 16, they will focus solely on the Liga Pro, and I expect them to repeat their championship or at least come in second place. And the last team that I am including as title challengers is Independiente del Valle. This is perhaps a little bit controversial because they have lost their fantastic manager and two of their best players in Moises Caicedo and in Angelo Preciado. But the reason why I'm putting them here is because they are the best run club in Ecuador and arguably the best run club in Latin America. They've lost managers, and every time they lose a manager, they replace him with somebody that seems to fit into their philosophy even better than the guy before. And I don't expect Portuguese Paiva to be the exception. I think he's going to come in. He's going to want to prove to the directors and the chairman that he is the right man for the job, and I think that he is going to have a good year both domestically and continentally. In addition to that, we must also take into account that Independiente del Valle has one of the best academies in Latin America. They have a wealth of talent that they can pluck out of their lower divisions. And whenever they're in any type of issue, whether they may have injuries or suspensions, they simply bring up one of their young players that is equally as good as one of their starting 11, and then they will sell them for a huge profit come the end of the year. So I don't think that they should have any issue. And another thing that I must add is they have wanted to become Ecuadorian champions for a really, really long time. And right now, there's an extremely competitive league that's going on, and I think that it's the perfect opportunity for them to actually clinch the title here. We will see if this comes to fruition towards the end. I expect them to be fighting as title challengers throughout the whole season, and at the very least, to be able to get a Libertadores berth. So this is my tier list. These are the way that I think that these teams will perform during this season. I don't know if I'm going to be right or if I'm going to be wrong. You can screenshot it. You can tweet at me if you think I'm not doing things the way that I should, or perhaps you think that there are some teams that deserve to be higher or lower in the list. Hopefully, this will be able to generate a little bit of discussion throughout this. And also make sure you follow us on our Twitter account. Our Twitter account is at Roundup Pro. Here we will be posting a lot of information related to the Liga Pro. Hopefully, we will have a weekly roundup on the fixtures of that week, and also we're hoping to launch some type of a podcast soon or some type of a video series soon. So make sure you follow us. Here you will be able to find our newsletter, our Substack, which if you sign up, you will be able to receive our articles directly on your email inbox. So perhaps that's something that you might want to check out. In addition to this, just you can talk to us on Twitter. You can message us. You can tweet at us. You can reply to this YouTube video. Just whatever. The main goal that we have right now is to be able to generate some type of discussions about the Liga Pro, and also to be able to cater to Liga Pro fans or enthusiasts around the globe. As such, we will be trying to provide content in both Spanish and English. For this video, we have focused on the English because I have seen that a lot of people, or not a lot, but select group of people are asking for content in English, and I really wanted to put out this video before the action starts tomorrow. So don't remember to follow us, like our video, just help us generate a lot of discussion towards this fantastic league. And most importantly, don't forget to tune into the league tomorrow. It begins at 4:30 Ecuadorian time in a very interesting match between Universidad Católica and Centro Deportivo Olmedo in Estadio Olímpico Atahualpa. Hopefully, you will be able to enjoy that game and to be able to convert a lot more people into what I consider to be one of the most physical, one of the most interesting, and most entertaining leagues in the world. So this has been our first video. Hopefully you will be able to subscribe to our channel, to like us on Twitter, and I will see you next time for the roundup of the first week of action in the Liga Pro. See you next time.